Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. I do readings twice a week from various classics. If you subscribe to my free Substack newsletter at ravensview.substack.com, you'll get notified of the next episode and can leave your comments or suggestions. And you can also browse my flash fiction writings or musings on the world. I will be reading to you from Very Good Jeeves. It's a collection of short stories written by P.G. Wodehouse in 1930. Jeeves, a very competent valet, and his hapless employer, Bertie Wooster, were characters in dozens of short stories by Wodehouse. This is a long chapter, so I'll split it in two. Jeeves and the Kid Clementina. It has been well said of Bertie Wooster by those who know him best that, whatever other sporting functions he may fit to oil out of, you will always find him battling to his 16 handicap at the annual golf tournament of the Drones Club. Nevertheless, when I heard that this year they were holding it at Bingley-on-the-Sea, I confess I hesitated, and as I stood gazing out of the window of my suite at the Splendide on the morning of the opening day, the brow was a bit knitted. I was not exactly a twitter, if you understand me, but I couldn't help feeling I might have been rather rash. "Jeeves," I said, "now that we have actually arrived, I find myself wondering if it was quite prudent to come here." "It is a pleasant spot, sir." "Where every prospect pleases," I agreed. "But though the spicy breezes blow fair o'er Bingley-on-Sea, we must never forget that this is where my Aunt Agatha's old friend, Miss Mapleton, runs a girls' school. If the relative knew I was here, she would expect me to call on Miss Mapleton." "Very true, sir." I shivered somewhat. "I met her once, Jeeves. 'Twas on a summer evening in my tent, the day I overcame the nervy. Oh, rather at lunch at Aunt Agatha's, a year ago come Lammas Eve. It is not an experience I would willingly undergo again. The Mapleton struck me then, and I have no reason to alter my opinion since, as one of those women best seen through a telescope. She wears steel-rimmed spectacles, and the effect she has on the insensitive male, when faced at close quarters, is to make him feel as if he were being disemboweled. I can't imagine anything I should enjoy less than calling on her." "Indeed, sir." "Besides, you remember what happened last time I got into a girls' school?" "Yes, sir." "Secrecy and silence, then. My visit here must be strictly incog. If Aunt Agatha happens to ask you where I spent this week, tell her I went to Harrogate for the cure." "Very good, sir. Pardon me, sir. Are you proposing to appear in those garments in public?" Up to this point our conversation had been friendly and cordial, but I now perceived that the jarring note had been struck. I had been wondering when my new +4 trousers would come under discussion, and I was prepared to battle for them like a tigress for her young. "Certainly, Jeeves," I said. "Why? Don't you like them?" "No, sir." "You think them on the bright side?" "Yes, sir." "A little vivid, they strike you as?" "Yes, sir." "Well, I think highly of them, Jeeves," I said firmly. "Apart from the fact that on the links a certain dash, a certain gaiety of exterior is expected of one, these +4s give me confidence. With their assistance I anticipate going through the opposition like a devouring flame. They cannot but exercise an impressive effect on my play. I shall wear these +4s, Jeeves." "Very good, sir." There already being a certain amount of chilliness in the air, it seemed to me a suitable moment for springing another item of information which I had been keeping from him for some time. "Jeeves," I said. "Sir?" "I ran into Miss Wickham the other day. After chatting of this and that, she invited me to join a party. She's getting up to go to the Antipodes this summer." "Indeed, sir." He now looked definitely squiggly-eyed. Jeeves did not approve of Bugby Wickham. He thinks her a menace to the community, and holds that any extended association with her inevitably leads ere long to the sickening plunge into the soup. And to a certain extent, I'm bound to say, events have borne him out. You may remember my having told you of the perils I had to face owing to her activities in connection with the episode of the dog Mackintosh and the sinister affair of the punctured hot water bottle. There was what you might call a tense silence. I braced myself for an exhibition of the good old Wooster determination. I mean to say, one has got to take a firm stand from time to time. The trouble with Jeeves is that he tends occasionally to get above himself. Just because he has surged round and, I admit it freely, done the young master a bit of good in one or two crises, he has a nasty habit of conveying the impression that he looks on Bertie Wooster as a sort of idiot child who, but for him, would conk in the first chukker. I resent this. I accept the Jeeves, I said in a quiet, level voice, lighting a cigarette with a careless flick of the wrist. Indeed, sir. You will like Antibes? Yes, sir. So shall I. Yes, sir. Well, that's settled then. I was pleased. The firm stand I saw had done its work. It was plain that the man was crushed beneath the iron heel, cowed, if you know what I mean. Right-ho, then, Jeeves. Very good, sir. I had not expected to return from the match until well on in the evening, but circumstances so arranged themselves that it was barely 3 o'clock when I found myself back again and doing a bit of ozone sniffing on the pier. I was wandering moodily to and fro when I observed Jeeves shimmering toward me. Good afternoon, sir, he said. I had not supposed that you would be returning quite so soon, or I should have remained at the hotel. I had not supposed that I should be returning quite so soon myself, Jeeves, I said, sighing somewhat. I was outed in the first round, I regret to say. Indeed, sir. I am sorry to hear that. And to increase the mortification of defeat, Jeeves, by a blighter who had not spared himself at the luncheon table, and was quite noticeably sozzled. I couldn't seem to do anything right. Perhaps you admitted to keep your eye on the ball with sufficient assiduity, sir. Oh, something of that nature, no doubt. Anyway, here I am, a game and popular loser, and— I paused and scanned the horizon with some interest. Great Scott, Jeeves! Look at that girl just coming onto the pier. I never saw anybody so extraordinary like Miss Wickham. How do you account for these resemblances? In the present instance, sir, I attribute the similarity to the fact that the young lady is Miss Wickham. Eh? Yes, sir. If you notice, she is waving to you now. Oh, but what on earth is she doing down here? I am unable to say, sir. His voice was chilly and seemed to suggest that whatever had brought Bobby Wickham to Bingley-on-the-Sea, it could not, in his opinion, be anything good. He dropped back into the offing, registering alarm and despondency, and I removed the old Homburg and waggled it genially. What ho, I said. Bobby came to anchor alongside. Hello, Bertie, she said. I didn't know you were here. I am, I assured her. In mourning, she asked, eyeing the trouserings. Rather natty, aren't they? I said, following her gaze. Jeeves doesn't like them, but then he's notoriously hidebound in the matter of legwear. What are you doing in Bingley? My cousin Clementina is at school here. It's her birthday, and I thought I'd come down to see her. I'm just off there now. Are you staying here tonight? Yes, at the Splendide. Oh, you can give me dinner there if you like. Jeeves was behind me, and I couldn't see him, but at these words I felt his eyes slap warningly against the back of my neck. I knew what it was that he was trying to broadcast, viz., that it would be tempting Providence to mix with Bobby Wickham, even to the extent of giving her a bite to eat. Dashed absurd was my verdict. Get entangled with young Bobby in the intricate life of a country house, where almost anything can happen, and, well, I'm not saying, but how any doom or disaster could link behind the simple pronging of a spot of dinner together, I failed to see. I ignored the man. Of course, I said, certainly, rather, absolutely. Well, that'll be fine. I've got to get back to London tonight for a revelry of sorts at the Berkeley, but it doesn't matter if I'm a bit late. We'll turn up at about 7:30, and you can take us to the movies afterward. We? Us? Clementina and me. You don't mean you intend to bring your ghastly cousin? Of course I do. Don't you want the child to have a little pleasure on her birthday? And she isn't ghastly. She's a dear. She won't be any trouble. All you'll have to do is take her back to school afterwards. You can manage that without straining a sinew, can't you?" I eyed her keenly. "What does it involve?" "How do you mean, what does it involve?" "There will be no rot," I said, continuing to give her the eye, "about getting lugged in and having to make a speech. The last time I was lured into a girls' school, a headmistress with an eye like a gimlet insisted on my addressing the chain gang on ideals and the life to come. This will not happen tonight." "Oh, of course not," she said. "You just go to the front door, ring the bell, and bung her in." I mused. "That would appear to be well within our scope, eh, Jeeves?" "I should be disposed to imagine so, sir." The man's tone was cold and soupy, and scanning his face, I observed on it an "if you would only be guided by me" expression, which annoyed me intensely. There are moments when Jeeves looks just like an ant. "Right," I said, ignoring him once more, and rather pointedly at that. "Then I'll expect you at 7:30. Don't be late. And see," I added, just to show the girl that beneath the smiling exterior I was a man of iron, "that the little kid has her hands washed and does not sniff." I had not, I confess, looked forward with any great keenness to hobnobbing with Bobby Wickham's cousin Clementina, but I'm bound to admit she might have been considerably worse. Small girls, as a rule, I have noticed, are inclined, when in the presence, to giggle a good deal. They snigger and they stare, and I look up and find their eyes glued on me in an incredulous manner, as if they were reluctant to believe that I was really true. I suspect them of being in the process of memorizing any little peculiarities of deportment that I may possess, in order to reproduce them later for the entertainment of their fellow inmates. With the kid Clementina there was nothing of this description. She was a quiet, saint-like child of about 13, in fact, seeing that this was her birthday exactly 13, and her gaze, when she was confronted with me, revealed only silent admiration. Her hands were spotless, she had not a cold in the head, and at dinner, during which her behavior was unexceptional, she proved a sympathetic listener, hanging on my lips, so to speak, when with the aid of a fork and 2 peas I explained to her how my opponent that afternoon had stymied me on the 10th. She was equally above criticism at the movies, and at the conclusion of the proceedings thanked me for the treat with visible emotion. I was pleased with the child, and said as much to Bobby while assisting her into the 2-seater. "Yes, I told you she was a dear," said Bobby, treading on the self-starter in preparation for the dash to London. "I always insist that they misjudge her at that school. They're always misjudging people. They misjudged me when I was there." "Misjudge her? How?" "Oh, in various ways. But then what can you expect of a dump like St. Ethelburga's?" I started. "St. Ethelburga's? Oh, that's the name of the place." "You don't mean the kid is at Miss Mapleton's school?" "Why shouldn't she be?" "But Miss Mapleton is my Aunt Agatha's closest friend." "I know," she said. "It was your Aunt Agatha who got Mother to send me there as a kid." I said earnestly, "when you were there this afternoon, you didn't mention having met me here?" "No." "Well, that's all right." I was relieved. You see, if Miss Mapleton knew I was in Bingley, she would expect me to call, and I shall be leaving tomorrow morning, so all will be well. "But dash it," I said, spotting the snag, "how about tonight?" "What about tonight?" "Well, shan't I have to see her? I can't just ring the front doorbell, sling the kid in, and leg it. I should never hear the last of it from Aunt Agatha." Bobby looked at me in an odd, meditative sort of way. "As a matter of fact, Bertie," she said, "I had been meaning to touch on that point. I think if I were you, I wouldn't ring the front doorbell." "Eh? Why not?" "Well, it's like this, you see. Clementina is supposed to be in bed. They sent her there just as I was leaving this afternoon. Think of it, on her birthday, right plumb spang in the middle of her birthday, and all for putting sherbet in the ink to make it fizz." I reeled. "You aren't telling me that this foul kid came out without leave?" "Well, yes, I am. That's exactly it. She got up and sneaked out when nobody was looking. She had her heart set on getting a square meal. I suppose I really ought to have told you right at the start, but I didn't want to spoil your evening. As a general rule, in my dealings with the delicately nurtured, I am the soul of knightly chivalry, suave, genial, and polished. But I can on occasion say the bitter-cutting thing, and I said it now. "Oh," I said. "Oh, but it's all right." "Yes," I said, speaking, if I recollect, between my clenched teeth. "Nothing could be sweeter, could it? The situation is one in which it would be impossible to view with concern, what? I shall turn up with the kid, get looked at through steel-rimmed spectacles by the Mapleton, and after an agreeable 5 minutes shall back out, leaving the Mapleton to go to her escritoire and write a full account of the proceedings to my Aunt Agatha. And contemplating what will happen after that, the imagination totters. I confidently expect Aunt Agatha to beat all previous records." The girl clicked her tongue chidingly. "Don't make such heavy weather, Bertie. You must learn not to fuss so." "Oh, I must I? Yes, everything's going to be all right. I'm not saying it won't be necessary to exercise a little strategy in getting Clem into the house, but it will be perfectly simple if you only listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. First, you'll need a long piece of string." "String?" "A string. Surely even you know what string is?" I stiffened rather haughtily. "Certainly," I said. "You mean string." "That's right, string. You take this with you, and soften the Mapleton's heart by doing tricks with it, I suppose." Bitter, I know, but I was deeply stirred. "You take this string with you," proceeded Bobby patiently, "and when you get into the garden, you go through it until you come to the conservatory near the house. Inside it, you will find a lot of flower pots. How are you on recognizing a flower pot when you see one, Bertie?" "I am thoroughly familiar with flower pots, if, I suppose, you mean those sort of pot things they put flowers in." "Well, that's exactly what I mean," she said. "Grab an armful of these flower pots and go around the conservatory till you come to a tree. Climb this, tie a string to one of the pots, balance it on a handy branch which you will find overhangs the conservatory, and then having stationed Clem near the front door, retire into the middle distance and jerk the string. The flower pot will fall and smash the glass. Someone in the house will hear the noise and come out to investigate. And while the door is open and nobody is near, Clem will sneak in and I'll go up to bed." "But suppose no one comes out?" "Oh, then you repeat the process with another pot. You have the night before you." "It seems sound enough." "You sure it'll work?" "It's never failed yet. That's the way I always used to get in after lockup when I was at St. Ethel's. Now you're sure you've got it all clear, Bertie? Let's have a quick run-through to make certain, and then I must be off. String? String. Conservatory or greenhouse. Flower pot? Flower pot. Tree, climb, branch, climb down, jerk, smash, and then off to Betty-Bye. Got it?" "I've got it," I said sternly, "but let me tell you just one thing." "Oh, I haven't time. I must rush. Write to me about it, using one side of the paper only. Goodbye." She rolled off, and after following her with burning eyes for a moment, I returned to Jeeves, who was in the background showing the kid Clementina how to make a rabbit with a pocket handkerchief. I drew him aside. I was feeling a little better now, for I perceived that an admirable opportunity had presented itself for putting the man in his place and correcting his view that he is the only member of our establishment with brains and resource. "Jeeves," I said, "you will doubtless be surprised to learn that something in the nature of a hitch has occurred." "Not at all, sir." "No?" No, sir. In matters where Miss Wickham is involved, I am, if I may take the liberty of saying so, always on the alert for hitches. If you recollect, sir, I have frequently observed that Miss Wickham, while a charming young lady, is apt— Yes, Jeeves, I know. What would the precise nature of the trouble be this time, sir?" I explained the circs. "Well, the kid is AWOL. They sent her to bed for putting sherbet in the ink, and in bed they imagined her to have spent the evening. Instead of which, she was out with me, wolfing the 8-course table-d'hôte dinner at 7 and 6, and then going on to the Marine Plaza to enjoy an entertainment on the silver screen. It is our task to get her back into the house without anyone knowing. I may mention, Jeeves, that the school in which this young excrescence is serving her sentence is the one run by my Aunt Agatha's old friend, Miss Mapleton. Indeed, sir. A problem, Jeeves, what? Yes, sir. In fact, one might say a pretty problem. Undoubtedly, sir. If I may suggest, I was expecting this. I raised a hand. I do not require any suggestions, Jeeves. I can handle this matter myself. I was merely about to propose. I raised the hand again. Peace, Jeeves. I have the situation well under control. I have had one of my ideas. It may interest you to hear how my brain worked. It occurred to me, thinking the thing over, that a house like St. Ethelburga's would be likely to have near it a conservatory containing flower pots. Then, like a flash, the whole thing came to me. I proposed to procure some string, to tie it to a flower pot, to balance the pot on a branch. There will no doubt be a tree near the conservatory with a branch overhanging it, and to retire to a distance holding the string. You will station yourself with the kid near the front door, taking care to keep carefully concealed. I shall then jerk the string, the pot will smash the glass, the noise will bring someone out, and while the front door is open, you will shoot the kid in and leave the rest to her personal judgment. Your share in the proceedings, you will notice, is simplicity itself. How about it? Well, sir, Jeeves, I have had occasion before to comment on this habit of yours of saying, well, sir, whenever I suggest anything in the nature of a ruse or piece of strategy. I dislike it more every time you do it, but I shall be glad to hear what possible criticism you can find to make. I was about to express the opinion, sir, that the plan seems elaborate. Well, in a place as tight as this, you have got to be elaborate. Not necessarily, sir. The alternative scheme I was about to propose— Shush the man. There will be no need for alternative schemes, Jeeves. We will carry on along the lines I have indicated. I shall give you 10 minutes' start. That will enable you to take up your position near the front door and self to collect the string. At the conclusion of that period, I shall come along and do all the difficult part. So, no more discussion. Snap into it, Jeeves. Very good, sir. End of episode. Well, as usual, Bobby Wickham has dragged Bertie into a bit of a mess. Bertie does have a solution, one she suggested, but I suspect Jeeves has a better alternative. We'll see. Just a reminder, if you subscribe to my free newsletter at ravensview.substack.com, you'll get notified of my updates as soon as they're ready. Plus, you can browse the various short stories and musings I have in there. If you enjoyed this reading or have other classics you'd like to hear, do leave me a comment. Check out my other posts on my Substack. And remember to share this with your friends. Ta-ta for now.